guys, and welcome back to my channel, Keeping Up with Kels. I know I've been gone for a while, but I was working, like I really had a job working, feel me? Don't worry, I got some story times for my job to tell y'all too. But yeah, and I really just wasn't feeling this YouTube stuff at the moment, like, and some of y'all don't understand that YouTube is something that, like, you really have to be in the mood to do it, like, my fault. Yeah, anywho, YouTube is something that you really have to be in the mood to do. Like, if you're not in the mood to do it, the video is just, it's not gonna come out right. Like, you might not look good in the video, like your energy just might be off. So, you know, I was like, you know what, instead of me just trying to put together any little stupidness, let me just wait till I actually feel like recording and then, you know, come with a banger. Period. Womp womp womp, right? I'm breaking out OD, like, anywho. But yeah, I did my makeup myself. I was bored. I'm like, shoot, might as well, right? But yeah, this story time is a story time on when I almost killed myself by accident, aka the birth control horror story. Now, a lot of females, I know a lot of females that's on birth control and they like it, but me personally, birth control was not for me. Let me tell y'all why I did not like birth control. One, I was on the Depo at first. When I first started taking birth control, the very first one that I did was the Depo. The Depo had me bleeding. I bled. First of all, it lasted 3 months. And out the 3 months that it lasted, I probably was bleeding for almost 2 of those months. That's one. And then it throws your pH off balance completely, like, because, like, it's just too much hormones going on, and it really does just throw your pH off. Like, you really got to make sure you're drinking water, you eating all the right stuff and stuff like that, because if you don't, it's a yeast infection, yeast infection, yeast infection, yeast infection, yeast infection. And that's just not cute at all. Like, nobody got time for that.
Oh, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But yeah, I was bleeding for weeks at a time sometimes. Like, sometimes I had one time I bled for 2 weeks straight, like, just straight bleeding straight. I mean, I got off the Depo, like, I just stopped taking the Depo. But then I decided, I'm like, you know what? This is when I was in a relationship, like, you know? And I decided, I'm like, you know what? Let me take the mature route and get on birth control. So I got on the implant. That's the thing that go in your arm. The Nexaplan or whatever they call it. It go in your arm. So I went to Planned Parenthood and I got the birth control put in my right arm. And when they put it in, they gave me this little blue card or whatever. And basically the lady was telling me that it lasts for 3 to 5 years or whatever the case may be. And when I'm ready to get it taken out, I got to bring this blue card with me. So, me being me, knowing that I was a little careless at the time, I came home and gave it to my mom. But that's another, for me, that's not another story, but we're not there yet. So, while I'm on the implant, like, it's the same thing as the Depo. Like, I swear to God, it was throwing my pH off balance. I was bleeding for mad long. I swear to God, I had the craziest mood swings ever. Like, it would be one day I would be happy, the next day I'd be mad. I don't want nobody talking to me. 5 seconds later, I'm happy again. And it was just like that. Like, and it's because, you know, what birth control, like, a lot of people don't know this, but what birth control does, in order to stop you from getting pregnant, it makes your body think that it's already pregnant. So, of course, you're going to be hormonal. Of course, you're going to break out and stuff. You know, all the symptoms that you get from a regular pregnancy is what you're going to get when you're on birth control, you know. Except for all that, like, you know, some people really do bleed. Like, I'm not the only one. I looked this up. I'm not the only one that was bleeding for 2 weeks. Like, it's normal, but that's not normal, like, at all. If you get what I mean. Like, it's normal for you to, like, if certain people, like, you know, because everybody's bodies react to it differently. But that whole bleeding for 2 weeks thing was not normal to me at all. And I was just not feeling it. I'm like, yo, I don't like this. The whole point of me getting on birth control was that, you know, they tell you, like, you know, you get on birth control, your cycles might be shorter, it's gonna stop coming eventually, XYZ, or bada bing, bada boom. And I swear to God, I was on the Nexaplan, the thing that go in your arm, for almost a year and some change, and I was still getting my period, like. But anywho, so I decided that I was just like, you know what, like, I'm getting tired of these yeast infections. Like, I swear to God, like, well, no, we're not all females, because I know I got some male subscribers, but, like, as a female, a yeast infection is completely normal. Like, it's nothing wrong with, I mean, it's nothing wrong with getting a yeast infection, because you can get it from, if you go to the gym and you sweat and you get a yeast infection. Ooh, that's how real it is. You go to the gym and you sweat and you can get a yeast infection. if you wear the wrong panties, you can get a yeast infection. You know, like if too much soap down there, well, you're not even supposed to use soap down there, but you know, soap get down there, throw your pH off balance, you can get a yeast infection. Like, you know, regular shit like that. You keep your panty liner on for too long, you get a yeast infection. Like, you know, like, but it was just like, I don't want to keep dealing with this because I know it's the birth control. Like, it's not like it's anything else because I know it's the birth control. So it's like, I'm not about to keep dealing with this. So then I asked my mom, I'm like, can you give me the blue card that I gave you? She knew what I was talking about. I was like, can you give me the blue card that I gave you when I got on the birth control or whatever? And she was like, okay, I'm going to try to find it and I'm going to give it to you. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, about 2 weeks went past. I still ain't get it from her. So I asked her again. I'm like, wow, where's the blue card? Like, I don't want to be on this no more. Like, it's really just irritating me at this point. And it was like, sometimes, like, it's in your arm, but like, you can feel it sometimes. And like, it'll move a little bit and shit. Like it was just so annoying. Like, it was just like a no for me. Like, I swear to God, if anybody asks me if they should get on birth control, I'm going to tell you no, flat out, no. Like, just don't do it. Put on a condom. Pull out. That's it. But yeah, so she was just like, eventually she was told me, like, she told the truth. She was like, I can't find it, I don't know where it's at. So now I'm upset, and I called Planned Parenthood, and they're like, something, I gotta come in with the card still, either way. So I gotta try my best to find it, or a picture of it, or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, I don't have a picture of this little blue card, like, you know. And it just didn't make no sense to me. So I got mad, obviously. I went home one day after school. I bought a box of box cutters, like you know, little razor blades to put in them. Not the actual box cutter, like the plastic part, or the metal, depending on which one. But the actual blade, the razor blade. I bought a box of those. I went home, and I swear to God, I waited till it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I went in the bathroom, and I'm just sitting there. I have my arm like this, I swear to God. And just like this, the scar, like, it's a little scar, but I'm going to show y'all the pictures on how much of this little thing was bleeding. Like, this little piece of thing right here gave me so much trouble. But, yeah. So I'm in the bathroom, and I'm trying to cut it out with the blade or whatever. And, like, I'm just cutting, like, I'm not cutting too deep because I don't want to hurt myself at the same time. Like, I'm just trying to get it out. Because I remember when they put it in, the lady, like, she was a scalpel, and she didn't really cut too deep. Like, it was just, like, right under my skin type shit. So I was sitting there trying, and I'm like, yo, I'm going to keep cutting little pieces until I figure out, like, you know, if I could push it out. I was in the bathroom for almost an hour. My mom came. She looked at me. I asked her for help. She went right back to sleep. She was like, no, I'm not helping you with none of that. Like, because my mom, she's very squeamish. So she's just like, I'm not helping you with nothing that got to do with blood and you hurting yourself. Like, if you bleeding and you need help stopping the bleeding, I'll help you. But if you bleeding and you doing it to yourself, she's just like, it's not my scenery. You might make me faint. I'm good. So I'm in the bathroom at like 3 o'clock in the morning by myself. Mind you, the whole time I'm cutting, this thing is bleeding. Like, it's just blood all over the bathroom floor. But I didn't really care because I have my own bathroom. So it's blood all over my bathroom floor. And I'm gonna clean it up. But I'm so determined on getting it out. Like, I don't know. Like, so let me see. I got my little notebook. Y'all know. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget nothing. Okay, so I ended up going to sleep like around 5 o'clock. Mind you, I had school the same day, so I ended up going to sleep. I don't even think I went to sleep. I probably just laid in bed, smoked a little bit, laid down, you know. Mind you, the whole time though, like, I'm bleeding from whatever time I started. So I know for a fact that I stopped cutting myself like around 4:30, 5-ish, like around that time. Then that whole time is bleeding. I went to bed, it was still bleeding. Like, I'm just putting like paper towels, and I took a towel, like an actual towel, a hand towel, like, you know what you put in the bathroom for drying your hands and stuff. I took one of those, I stuck it right there on my arm. It was still bleeding. Like, it just did not want to stop bleeding at all. And when I tell you it was bleeding, it was like the blood was gushing. It was everlasting. It kept flowing and flowing and flowing. You would have thought it was a river. But yeah, so I wake up now, like, it's time for me to start getting ready to school. It's like around 7:30, 8-ish, because I didn't really start school early. I started school like around 9, and I was like 20-30 minutes away from my school walking. And if I took the bus, it was like a 5-minute bus ride. So I always took the bus or a dollar van. I'm not walking nowhere. But yeah, so I'm getting ready for school, and my arm is still bleeding. I get out the shower, my arm is still bleeding. So I took a piece of paper towel and some tape. I decided to make my own band-aid because the band-aids in my house just was not gonna stop this bleeding. It was not even gonna hold nothing. Like, it was just gonna fall right off. Like, the way it was bleeding, the band-aids wasn't gonna be able to stop nothing. So I wrapped it up, made my own little band-aid. I threw on a long sleeve and some like overalls to school because it was fake hot outside. So like, it was like some short overalls, you know, like whatever you call it. Anywho, so I had a yellow long sleeve on. I got to school, and like by the time I got to school, my shirt was soaked. Like, my whole right arm was soaked. Like, it was just no coming back from that. Like, I had to go to the nurse because my teacher saw, and she was like, why are you, like, what's going on? You bleeding. Like, you gotta go to the nurse. Like, I go to the nurse. I walk in there and I'm like, can I get a band-aid? And she's like, for what? And being mad rude, of course. Like, I don't know. Like, nurses, I don't know. I've never had a friendly nurse except for when I was in school, like Grady and Coney. The nurse, she was mad nice and Grady. But yeah, I go to the nurse office and she's like, for what? Like, I'm like, because I'm bleeding. What else? Like, she's like, let me see. So now I show her. She's like, I can't give you a band-aid for that. I'm gonna have to call an ambulance and you gotta have to go to the hospital. Da, 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 da. I'm like, for what? Like, it's just a cut. I wiped it up. I showed her, I'm like, it's just a little cut. It's just bleeding. She was like, you're gonna have to go to the hospital because it's not like you're bleeding from your finger, you're bleeding from your arm, and da, 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 da. So I'm like, okay, whatever. The guidance counselor from my school, because the school that I was in at the time, it had like about 2 high schools, an elementary school, and a middle school. So it was like 4 schools in it. So to get the guidance counselor from my school, she came downstairs or whatever, one of them, they came downstairs. And the nurse was like, okay, so I called the ambulance, but somebody has to ride in the ambulance with her to the hospital, and they got to stay with her or whatever. So she came, the guidance counselor came with me. We ended up going to the hospital. That was like 3 minutes away from my school. And yeah, so now I'm in the hospital, and it was only like second period. So now it's like, it was only like second period. So it was like 9, 10-ish, like, yeah, around at 10 something or whatever. And I was there from like second period all the way until school ended, and school finished like around 3 o'clock. I don't even remember. I smoked so much. I think it was like 2:40 or some shit like that. Time the school was over. But yeah, school finished around 3 o'clock, and I swear to God, the whole time I'm there, I'm still bleeding. That's one. My arm is still bleeding, but they wrapped it up in the ambulance. Like, they wrapped it up with some gauze or whatever in the ambulance. So that, they wrapped it up better than I could, because, you know, they had the gauze, they had the medical tape and stuff like that. So it was like the bleeding, it slowed down, but it was still bleeding like a lot. So the whole time I'm sitting in the hospital, I'm still bleeding. Like, they just had me sitting in the waiting room. My mom came, the guidance counselor left. Mind you, like I said, school is over at this point. So now when it's like, it hit like 3 something, I'm like, Ma, let's go. I'm not staying here no more. I walk back to school because I know my friends is in the park by the school, because like I told y'all, we used to smoke in that park every day after school for like an hour and a half, hour, whatever the case may be. Then we all just go home. So I'm like, I know they still there. School just finished like 10-20 minutes ago. I'm walking back from the hospital to the school. I mean, from the hospital, yeah, to the school. I said it right. And I'm still bleeding. Like, I get back to the park. They're like, yo, you fixed up your arm or whatever? I'm like, no. They was like, so what you was doing? I'm like, I was at the hospital. They was like, so the whole time you was there, you ain't see nobody? No, I did not. Like, I was there the whole day and did not see nobody. So I ended up going home. I smoked in the park with them for like a few. Ended up going home. I went home. My mom was like, of course, she was already home because I walked to school. She went to the house. Yeah. My mom, she was like, okay, go lay down for a few, and then when you get up, you can go to Kings County. That's another hospital, but they just move faster. They more efficient or whatever. So she was like, we're gonna go there or whatever. Oh yeah. Anyway, so she was like, we're gonna go to Kings County. I went to sleep for like 2-3 hours. Mind you, now it's like about, by the time I wake up, I'm still bleeding at that. By the time I wake up, it's like about 7-8 o'clock. So now I done been bleeding all day from this one little cut. And when I show y'all the pictures, y'all gonna understand why I really almost died, because like the way that this cut was bleeding, I didn't think it was so much. But anyway, so I get to Kings County, and they're like, as soon as I get there, they like assign in or whatever. 5 minutes later, they call. They're like, okay, so let me see your arm. And I showed them. They was like, wow, like, they said you almost hit your artery. Like, I'm looking at them like, motherfucker, I just cut where the lady cut at. Like, I literally cut on the same line where the first cut was at. Like, I'm just looking at them. They was like, but if you had, this is what they said. They was like, if you had help though, you would have got it out. Like, they would have been like, you would have got it out and it wouldn't have been bleeding this much. You would have been fine. I looked at my mom and I'm like, if you would have helped me, you know? But yeah. So they was doing their little inspections or whatever. They asked me how long I had it for. I told them that the 2nd, 3rd. They gave me, they asked me, they was gonna sew it back up, like, and leave the birth control in there. And I'm like, the whole point of me coming, if this was the case, I could have stayed home, like, you know, leave it in my arm at home. The whole point of me coming here was so that y'all could take it out and stitch it back up. Obviously, like, you know, I still want it out. Like, just because I'm bleeding crazy don't mean I want to keep it in. I still want it out. Like, so they fished around, tried to see where it was at. Then they came back with a scalpel and they cut it or whatever. They cut it out, and then I had to get like some stitches, like some horse skin stitches. They gave me like, I don't know if it's horse skin, pig skin, whatever the hell, but the stitches that you don't have to take out, the one that like fade away and turn into your skin, like feel me? But they gave me those, and then they gave me like 3 bags of blood. I was there for almost like 6 hours after that, and they gave me some cookies, some juice. They was just like, okay. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning where they told me, it was like, yeah, you can go home now. My mom was waiting with me. They was like, yeah, I can go home. They gave me my discharge papers, and they was like, don't ever do that again. They was like, you are so lucky. They was like, because I was like, oh, you didn't faint, like you wasn't feeling weak, no nothing. They was like, you were so lucky because you lost a lot of blood, like you really almost died, like you could have died. And I'm just like, wow. So now my daughter is not allowed to get on birth control. You want to be fast, you better put a condom on, or you bring home my grandbaby. It's just that simple. But yeah, that is the birth control horror story. The time I almost died. XYZ, whatever we gonna call it, we gonna call it that. But let's get into these lashes. These lashes are from my line. I believe these are not the Do Too Much. I think it's the Too Drippy. I'm not too sure. I don't remember because like I have like 4 of them out the cases. But I believe these are the Too Drippy ones. But yeah, if you like the story time, comment, share, subscribe, turn on the post notifications. But when you turn them on, what I'm gonna need y'all to do is put it on, and it's not, make sure that it doesn't say personalized. Make sure it says all, because like YouTube does that thing now where it's like it says none, personalized, and all. Make sure you put on all, so that way when I drop a video or a story time or whatever the case may be, whenever I drop something, y'all gonna know. Y'all gonna be the first to know, and that's it. Bada bing, bada boom. Toodles.